Welcome to Fantasy Sports Daily, powered by FantasyGuru.com. Monday through Friday at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 9 a.m. Pacific. Ray Flowers breaks it all down for you from a fantasy sports perspective. Hey there, everyone. Ray Flowers of FantasyGuru.com. Let me clear my throat. This is terrible. All right, we're good to go. Let me take a sip of water, too. It happened right as we were starting the show. I'm so excited for opening day. Ray Flowers of FantasyGuru.com. Thanks for joining me today. Thanks for joining us every day here on the show. Monday through Friday, 12 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, we rock and roll. Talk some sports, have a lot of fun on the show. Free listening experience. You can always go to FantasyGuru.com, click that subscribe tab in the top right corner to get signed up for any and all the products. As you can see behind me, for those of you watching live, yeah, it's number one day. Well, for the majority of teams, for all but two of the teams. Today is opening day for Major League Baseball. We'll talk about opening day. We'll talk about where we're at. We'll talk about a bunch of things baseball heavy for about the first half of the show. Then we'll talk some football with Tyler Beaker. Again, I'm Ray Flowers at FantasyGuru.com. We're here with you Monday through Friday at 12 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. I'm on here Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. Justin Fensterman hosts on Wednesdays. On Wednesdays, I'm on the Elite Sports Show with Jeff Mans. That is Monday through Friday at 3 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. So I'm here 4 days a week. I'm there with Jeff on Wednesdays at 3 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. And we talked about it earlier this week as well, the return of Game Time. So for those of you that enjoy Game Time, myself and Justin Fensterman will be hosting that show on SiriusXM Fantasy Sports Radio. That'll be Monday through Friday, 8 to 10 Eastern Time. So we're adding Friday this year. Last year, we only did Monday through Thursday. This year, it's Monday through Friday for the months of April, May, and June. We'll see if it goes beyond that. We actually start on March 31st on Monday next week. But the bottom line is I'll be on there with Justin every night, Monday through Friday for a couple hours, 8 to 10 Eastern. So wrapping that all up, I will be talking at a minimum of 3 hours a day for you. This show is free. The other shows, obviously, you have to have a subscription to SiriusXM Fantasy Sports Radio. There might be a podcast in there somewhere. Again, I don't know. My schedule is so heavy that I'm not going to commit to doing a podcast or anything like that. I don't want to overpromise something and not be able to deliver it. But we'll be here every morning, 12 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. Jeff Mann shows every day, Monday through Friday on SiriusXM at 3 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. And then Justin and I with the Game Time show from 8 to 10 Eastern, Monday through Friday. So lots of ways to hear us. Not to mention, go to FantasyGuru.com, click that Elite Plus tab at the top of the page, and get One Man's Opinion, get Fantasy's Basketball Diaries, get the Mind of Marcel, all the shows we have, the Fantasy Guru Racing Hour. So lots of options there. Click that Elite Plus tab at the top of the page. With us every day here, if you're watching us live at Facebook.com/FantasyGuruHQ, on YouTube at YouTube.com/@ElitePlusNetwork, on Twitter X @FantasyGuruSite. If you're in any of those places, you can watch live and leave comments and questions, and we'll talk throughout the show. There's Eric S. Good morning, Ray. Happening opening day. Let's go, Giants. Yes. John G. Let's go. Rubby17. Happy opening day. Angelo, light drizzle, but nothing big. Everyone's looking forward to the start of Major League Baseball. So again, YouTube.com/@ElitePlusNetwork, Twitter X @FantasyGuruSite, Facebook.com/FantasyGuruHQ. Any of those spots, you can leave comments and questions throughout the show. We'll address them live. You can always watch the show on demand at any of those spots. You can always also go to the website, click that Elite Plus tab. You'll find this show cataloged there. You can also type in Fantasy Sports Daily to your podcast network. Remember to sign up for any of the baseball products, and they're all good to go. Go to FantasyGuru.com, click that subscribe tab in the top right corner. We'll talk some news and notes with some baseball here. We'll get into the DFS and wagering plans a little bit more in depth. We did this earlier on the week on Monday, I believe. A little bit of a touch again on that. And then with Tyler Beaker in about 25 minutes, Tyler comes on every Thursday to talk football with us. We're going to do the old what does every team need kind of thing. We'll do this the next 3 weeks heading into the draft with Tyler. This week we're talking the Wests. So the AFC West and the NFC West, what are their needs at the draft? Tyler and I will talk about that in about 25 minutes. All right, let's dive in here. We had a user over at FantasyGuru.com. And remember, when you sign up for a package at FG, you get access to the Discord room. So if you sign up for the seasonal room, you get the seasonal Discord. Wagering Discord. DFS Discord. You can click that subscribe tab in the top right corner of the page. You can sign up for all 3 products. You can sign up for just one. You can sign up for 2 of the 3. You can always send a note to support@fantasyguru.com, support@fantasyguru.com. I was having a discussion this morning in the chat room for the seasonal piece, And someone said, Ray, I've got 7 players on the injured list already. Woof. Woof. I mean, that is rough. I've told the story before. There was a period of time where I actually had 13 players on an injured list. Now, again, that was in mid-season and all that. Oftentimes hitting double digits, unfortunately. It's where we're at right now in the world. In my Dynasty League, I'm looking at it right now, Frankie Montas. In my Dynasty League, we have 50 roster spots. Frankie Montas is out. Ryan Weathers is out. Parker Meadows is out. Like these guys, Spencer Horowitz is out. Meadows is already on the 60-day IL. We don't know how much time Ryan Matthews is going to miss. And another one of my guys that's out, who was placed on the injured list this morning, is Jared Jones. And that's how I wanted to start out talking with you all about. And, you know, we've talked so much about this. I don't want to relitigate everything here again on Fantasy Sports Daily. But the bottom line is, number one, I have said all along, I said this for years. I said this going back 20 years ago, but more so now, I think, than even then. Don't draft pitching early. Just don't do it. It's a crapshoot. It's just total crapshoot. I mean, Jared Jones is your number one. Your number two is Shane McClanahan. You're screwed. Okay? Number one, don't draft pitching early. Number two, keep drafting pitching. Sometimes you end up with an unbalanced roster, and I don't want to see you have 5 of your 6 bench spots be pitching. I don't think that's the right way to play it either. I know people do that all the time in head-to-head because they're gaming the system. Okay. But the more the point is, when you're in your draft and you're putting your team together, don't ever think, I've got starting pitching handled, because you don't. You don't. Always pay attention while you're drafting. If there's a bargain to hunt for, if there's a guy that's falling farther than he should, if you're like, well, there's 3 guys in the outfield, who cares who I get? Take another pitcher. Jared Jones, we knew he hurt his arm. He's got a UCL sprain, which is better than a full-on tear. A sprain is obviously a damage to the UCL. I saw some people say, well, you know, he's looking at his UCL, and the good news is that it's not damaged. He's got a UCL sprain, his arm is damaged. So let's be very clear about what we're saying here. There's no recommendation for surgery at this point in time with Jared Jones. However, we're talking about 6 weeks of him doing nothing. Nothing. So he will be starting back at 0. Any hiccup, they will shut him down again. A best case scenario would appear to be an early June return. That's a best case, absolute best case scenario. A more plausible return is sometime prior to the All-Star break, sometime in June. Mid to late June is more plausible at this point in time. In fact, I'd say late June is probably what we should be targeting for, again, a couple of weeks before the All-Star break. You start running into if he's going to be ready on June 28th, do we just back him off a couple of more weeks and bring him back after the All-Star game? There will be some of that, right? If he has any hiccup or whatever, like we're talking about any kind of setback whatsoever, they give him 2 more weeks. Now we're talking about after the All-Star break. The bottom line is Jared Jones went from somebody you were going to start 30 times this year and feel great about to legitimately someone who's hoping to make 15 starts. And there still has to be the understanding that though everyone is saying everything's fine right now and it's best case scenario, the best case scenario could still lead to him missing the entirety of 2025. And though there's no surgery indicated right now, that is not to say that it won't be indicated at some point later on. So this is crushing news. You know, it's one thing if this happens on May 15th, right? But to have it happen the week before the season begins, right at the start of the year, it's like, So bottom line is Jared Jones' best case scenario, late June, is probably the fair return date to expect. But even that, Vinnie Pasquantino, who we've talked about a lot. Vinnie is got that hamstring injury. They've continued to say it's not a significant situation. Let's pull up the rosters and see if they have announced their starting lineup today yet. I mean, where are you, Royals? The Royals haven't. And Vinnie P is in the starting lineup. India, Witt, Pasquantino, and Salvador Perez. So the Royals are indeed going with Vinnie P today. I saw a note in Discord. I haven't seen it verified because I didn't look into this before the show because I was running around trying to get everything done. I saw a note that Tanner Bybee was supposed to start for the Guardians. I think it's now Blake Lively who's going on. Let's see if we can get a confirmation of that here as we're doing things. Lots going on here this morning. Let's see. Do this. We'll click on that. We'll do a little Tanner Bybee search. Let's do this. This is live radio, live podcasting, whatever it might be. Tanner Bybee pops up here. Tanner Bybee. Okay, I haven't. We'll have to figure it out as the show goes on here. I'm not getting the clarity that I wanted to, but I saw a note. Here it is. It is true. Tanner Bybee will not start today. Food poisoning. So it begins. Anyway, Blake Gladwell will be the option for Vinnie P to take on today. Great news that he's available to hit. We kind of speculated here the last week or so, that Vinnie P maybe he could be active today, even with the injury to his leg. So good news, he'll be active. Let's hope there's no aggravation there with Vinnie P. This one is interesting. We've talked so much about the Red Sox this preseason. Who's going to be their second baseman? Where is Bregman going to play? Where is Devers going to play? How much of the way this thing's going is just because of Devers' shoulders right now versus where they want it to be? Well, what we're hearing right now, and again, this has been an evolving story for the past month, so I guess we're still evolving it. But Alex Cora confirmed to the media that the designated hitter for the Red Sox this year is Rafael Devers. He didn't lead the group to believe, well, right now, he made it seem like their DH is Rafael Devers. And the quote is, "We're in the winning business," unquote. So I guess Cora basically is admitting what a lot of others have, that Bregman is a much better defensive player, obviously, than Rafael Devers. They're concerned about Devers' defense, a little bit concerned about his shoulder, and so he's going to be the DH. Now, the question obviously becomes with Rafael Devers is, how long is this going to last? You know, if you're Shohei Ohtani and you're UT only and you're, going 30-30, okay, cool. If you're Rafael Devers and you're going 29-30-100 with 4 steals, how far does he drop in ADP? If he's basically Manny Machado, but Machado's third base eligible and Devers is only UT eligible next year, how far does he fall? And that's I won the Tout Wars League last year. I've already got guys injured this year, so here we go. Probably not looking at a repeat, but I won my Tout Wars League last year. And I will say that having that UT spot eaten up by Ohtani, it was challenging at times because you go to the waiver wire and the fit's not there and all that kind of stuff. But at the end, he went 50-50 or whatever. So, I'm not complaining. But when it's a Rafael Devers type, when it's a Brent Rooker, when it's a Kyle Schwarber type. So hopefully Devers will play third base this season. I don't know at this point if that's going to happen. Hopefully Alex Bregman will play second base this year. When we were drafting him, we were thinking we were getting a dual position guy. That might just be third base for Alex Bregman. So that hope is shot too. So we'll see how this plays out. Obviously, things can change, help with players, injuries, all that kind of stuff. But right now, the DH for the Red Sox is Rafael Devers. This one's really interesting. Austin Hayes has been placed on the injured list with a calf injury for the Reds. That one's kind of a little surprising. The guy that we all anticipated being on the injured list, Spencer Steer, not on the injured list. So this is a positive story. Usually they're negatives we're talking about. This is a positive with Spencer Steer. He's got a shoulder injury, much like Rafael Devers. He hasn't been able to do the things necessary to be in the field, but the Reds are going to use him as the DH right now. And he's not expected to be in the opening day lineup. Let's see at the opening day lineup. He wasn't expected to be ready for the opening day lineup. And in fact, I'm looking at the opening day lineup of the Reds, and he is in the lineup today. It's Friedel, McLean, Ellie De La Cruz, Gavin Lux hitting cleanup. Did you take Gavin Lux in the 27th, 8th round like I did? Gavin Lux at cleanup. I'm loving that. Heimer Candelario, and then Spencer Steer, Encarnacion, Fraley, and Jose Trevino. Now, obviously, the lineup's a little different because Stevenson is out. I don't think Stevenson hits 9th, but, the good news here is, A, this Steer is healthy enough to hit. B, that he's in the lineup because they led us to believe he probably wouldn't be active on day 1, but he is. And C, because he's at the DH, this allows, for now at least, Christian Encarnacion-Strand to be the first baseman. Because my assumption is with Steer, with the shoulder and everything, I'm thinking he's more of a first baseman, right? Or a DH, right? I don't think they're planning on using him in the outfield, at least at this point in time. So that makes things a little dicey for Christian Encarnacion-Strand when the lineup is fully healthy. When Hayes is back and they start wanting to keep Hayes and Fraley, and so we can get a little tight there. But for now, CES is in the lineup, so is Steer. Both these guys, CES has got to hit. If he hits, he stays in the lineup, of course. He could hit 30 home runs this year. We all know about his power. But that Spencer Steer one, a positive story about the player's health. Who knew? Positive story on player's health on opening day. Evan Carter, woof. Evan Carter had a bad season last year, woefully missed on expectations after an excellent 2023. He came into camp this year. He'd been training differently in the offseason for his back, felt like he was in a good place physically. Went out and hit 150 in spring and just, ugh. And the Rangers said, well, we're sending you down. And so he's been sent to AAA. He's 22 years old. He's an elite prospect. He walks. He's got speed. He's got power. Like, he profiles as a 2020 guy with a 360 on base percentage. Like, he profiles as a really good offensive player. But right now, yeah. So I think the best case scenario for Carter is he goes down for 2 or 3 weeks, finds his groove, and they bring him back. Leody Taveras will be in the lineup for now. I wrote about this in the Rays Ramblings piece that went up this morning over at fantasyguru.com. Taveras, yeah, you know. If I have Carter on a team, and I do on one of my teams, I'm not dropping him. I'm in 14 and 15 team mixed leagues. I'm in roto leagues, and I have patience. If you're in a 10-team head-to-head league, if you got injured players already, you don't have IL spots. So I think whether you keep Carter or not is really dependent completely upon your team makeup and your league settings. My advice in general is to keep Evan Carter because, again, I think it's 3 weeks down on the farm and he's back, and here we go. If he goes down to the minors and 2 weeks from now he's hitting 150, we can make a different decision, right? Even though that wouldn't be fair because that is not a large enough sample size. It is not NOT, a large enough sample size. We can start making a little bit of decisions when we get a little bit more information. But for now, I'm holding Evan Carter. Tremendously disappointing, though, that he is starting the season in the minor leagues. Brett Baty is starting the season with the Mets. Now, this is a little surprising. This has been an evolving story with the Mets. Who's going to play second base? They've got the scenario where McLean is out. Jeff McLean? McNeil. Jeff McNeil, that didn't sound right. Jeff McNeil is out, and he's missing some time there, so they have an opening at second base. And so there's been that battle as to who's the second baseman of the Mets is going to be. They have not announced their lineup yet. Both Luis Angel Acuna and Brett Baty have both made the team. The assumption is basically that Baty's going to face righties at second base and Acuna is going to face lefties at second base. That's the assumption. Both the guys probably hit down in the order because they're going to go something like Lindor, Soto, Alonso, Vientos, Nimmo, right? And then it's Marte and when Francisco Alvarez returns. So I don't think either one of these guys, Baty or Acuna, is likely to hit above 7th, probably even hit 8th or 9th. But that's an interesting story that continues to develop. What happens when Jeff McNeil is ready to return from his oblique injury? How does that impact the playing time? Baty has to hit. Luis Angel Acuna can be kept around for his glove and his bat and his speed and all that, and they can keep him as a Baty has to hit, right? Because he's not a second baseman. He's not likely to produce good defensive numbers. He's got to hit to stay. So he's likely to be given an opportunity, though it'll probably be Acuna today because Framber Valdez is on the hill for the Astros. But we'll see how things play out with the Mets. The Rockies, and again, I saw some commentary on this. Roto World had a very interesting blurb on this saying that, you know, here are the Rockies basically being the Rockies and doing something that's stupid. They signed Mickey Moniak, 1-year deal, $1.25 million to the Rockies. Totally fine signing, not paying any money to him. You know, we'll take a shot, see if he can rekindle some of the success he had with the Phillies and all that kind of stuff. The problem is Moniak is just a guy. And it doesn't matter that he was a first-round draft pick, all that stuff. He's not that guy, right? He's just not. He's had a couple of brief moments where he had a 3-week run where he was great. But for the most part, he's a 720 OPS. He's just a guy. Bringing him in at that contract, go for it. That makes all the sense in the world. It's a good signing from that perspective. But what are the Rockies doing? They've got Hunter Goodman, who I wrote about this morning at fantasyguru.com, who had a massive spring. They've got Jordan Beck, who made the team, right? They've got Zach Veen in the minors. Why are you signing Mickey Moniak to, in essence, put a block on Beck and Veen, and especially Veen? Like, what are you doing? Like, if they brought in Moniak and said, look, if this guy has an 800 OPS, great. If it's 650, we'll just cut him because we only put $1.25 million in, fine. They want to play that game for, a month and a half until they think Veen is ready, cool. But it's just a weird, Moniak is not somebody that we're excited about in the fantasy space. I know it's Colorado. I could care less. I'm not running out to add Mickey Moniak. Over at fantasyguru.com, we'll have an announcement next week. We're bringing somebody else on at FG to do the Fab article on the weekends. We also have a new person on to do the weekly planner on Sundays. I'll be doing the Fab article this week before turning it over to them. So I'm not planning on writing Mickey Moniak up. I mean, maybe I'll put him in there and say, if you got $1,000 and you want to spend 15 on him, cool. You got $100 you want to spend 2 on him, cool. But we're not pushing to get Mickey Moniak. And this is, again, it's a negative for Zach Veen, who I'd really like to see get an opportunity because I don't think his bat's any worse than Moniak, and obviously he's got a speed piece that we are interested in the fantasy game. Speaking of a speed piece, we'll talk to Tyler Beaker in about 10 minutes, by the way, some football. Xavier Edwards was interviewed on MLB Network Radio and said he wanted to steal 60 bases. Mason Wynn earlier said he wanted to steal 40 bases. Like, guys make these proclamations, and in the case of Wynn or Edwards, those are attainable goals. But everything's going to have to go right for Wynn to get 40, and everything's going to have to go right for Edwards to get 60. In the case of Wynn, he's got a little bit more well-rounded offensive game. He's got a little bit more pop. In the case of Edwards, less pop, more you need on the ground and run really fast. He had 31 steals last year in 71 games at Edwards. We talked a lot about him on this show. He was a guy I picked up off the waiver wire, which is one of the reasons I did win the Tout Wars League last year, because he was obviously hugely effective there. He was, Edwards, somebody that could have qualified at multiple positions for you last year as well. So Edwards is a limited player in the sense that maybe he's hitting 285, and even if he steals 55 bases, he's going to have 5 home runs, right? He's in that Estuary Ruiz zone. He's in that Billy Hamilton zone. He's in that Victor Scott zone. These guys that, hopefully have enough batting average and enough steals to numbers to overcome the fact that their RBI and home run production is going to be low. Now, Edwards should play every day and hit at the top of the order, and he gets on base, which is different. He gets on base, which is different than Hamilton. He gets on base, which is different than Scott to date. He gets on base, which is, a trait that a lot of the speedsters, Mason Wynn. So if Edwards has got a 360 on base percentage, he has a much better chance of stealing those bases because obviously he's on base. So I would put 60, the chance of Xavier Edwards stealing 60 bases is probably 5%. Like, it's really out there. He's got to stay healthy and all. Is it possible? Yeah, it's possible. I'd be looking at him and saying 30, and anything above that with Edwards, we're in the happy zone. And so let's hope he gets 45. He could definitely do it. Okay. Max Scherzer is expected to start on Saturday. We had that issue with his thumb, and it looks like he's going to be good to go on Saturday. I'd be reluctant to start him. In fact, I have him in the league. I'm not starting him against the Orioles. I don't think you should be either. But he should be out there on Saturday. We'll see if he can stay healthy. The question with Scherzer, obviously, as there is with so many other pitchers, is how often can he take the hill? He's going to start the season on time, which is a little bit surprising given where we've been the last couple of weeks, but that's the expectation. His thumb's okay enough for him to start. We'll see if that's 40 pitches. We'll see if that's 80 pitches. Come on, Max Scherzer. Give us 20 good outings this year. I'm only asking for 20. 20 effective outings. Give us a 3.80 ERA and a 1.16 whip. Right? Doesn't have to be great. Just be good. Max Scherzer is going to try to start that path on Saturday. The bullpens. Yeah, we got problems all over the place. I have legitimately updated the closer grid at fantasyguru.com. I've updated it 4 times in the last 24 hours. I kept just updating it. Here's what we know right now. Foley's been sent down by the Tigers to the minors. If you have Jason Foley, not much reason to keep him at this point. If they didn't have enough confidence to hold him around, like even if when he's recalled, they're putting him in the 7th inning, right? So Jason Foley, deep leagues, yes. Shallower leagues, you can let him go. Who's the closer now? They haven't announced anybody. I don't think they're going to announce anybody. Bo Brisky would be my best option for you. But again, I don't think that the Tigers know what they're going to do in the 9th inning, as we saw down the stretch last season when they were using Holton as a starter, a setup guy, a closer. They're mixing and matching based upon the opponent, where everyone's at in terms of workloads, all that kind of stuff. So maybe we don't get somebody. Tigers, maybe they're one of those teams that doesn't even have a 20-save guy. Maybe it just doesn't happen this year because we got 3 different guys who all have 10 saves. So Foley's out. No real answer with the Tigers. Alexis Diaz has been placed on the injury list. We've talked about this. With the hamstring injury, the expectation is he will still be the closer when healthy. For now, Tony Santillan is a name that was specifically mentioned by Terry Francona, a guy that we weren't really talking about much because of some health concerns. One of our users over at FG actually knows him, posted a photo in Discord. That was cool. But Tony Santillan is a guy that if he's on the waiver wire, and he 99.9% of leagues is, if not 100%, maybe someone jumped him last night, so I got to give a percentage. 99% of leagues on the waiver wire. Diaz is not expected to miss 3 months. Diaz has been wonky this spring, and there's always a chance that he just, there is. Santillan, lot to prove, but he was mentioned not as the closer, but Francona kind of said that he's the guy. So it seems like he's in the lead of that group right now. What does that equate to? We'll see. The White Sox got rid of Anderson, who looked like he was their closer for the last 2 months. They demoted him. Mike Clevenger, who has 0 career saves. who throws like 88 miles an hour. I don't know what the White Sox are doing. The White Sox are awful. They were awful last year. They won, what, 41 games? I don't know if they get to 50 this year. I don't know what they're doing. I don't know what their plan is. They're going with a 34-year-old who has no saves as a closer. Good luck. The Pittsburgh Pirates, Bednar, Holderman, Santana. We've talked about that on the show. It's in the article over there. There is no closer for the Pirates right now. Bednar is still my best bet to lead the team in saves, but right now he's a disaster. He just had an awful spring, and he was very inconsistent last year. So that's a situation that's up in the air. And then finally, the Red Sox, they've announced that Chapman is the closer. Kind of the closer for now. He's going to be our closer this year. It's not like we have 100% confidence in him. It's kind of like closer for now. I think the Red Sox would want Liam Hendriks to take over the ninth inning. Remember, Slayton, Whitlock, Hendriks are all right-handed. Chapman's the only lefty, so even if Chapman's the closer, he's not likely to just work the ninth inning because they're going to want to play the matchup game a little bit and not get stuck with all these righties, depending upon what the opponent's got in their batting order. So that's kind of a rundown. You can go to FG, read more about this if you go and look at the updated closer grid. DFS wagering plans, I talked about this. Just to reiterate things over at fantasyguru.com. And remember, click that subscribe tab in the top right corner of the page. I will be doing a lot of cool things. Let me see what this is. I got a note here from my significant other wondering if I fed the puppy. Yes, I did. I got to let her know. Can't have the puppy getting double duty with the food. The DFS articles for me will be focused on the late slate. Today, it's an early slate, so I won't be writing a DFS article today. I'll start my DFS party with you all over at fantasyguru.com tomorrow. Click that subscribe tab in the top right corner. Sign up for the DFS package, the wagering package, the seasoning package, 2 of the 3, all 3. If you want to join and get everything we do baseball-wise, send a note to support@fantasyguru.com, support@fantasyguru.com. So my DFS article will be different. I talked about this earlier. I got the plan all put together. Jeff Mans and I talked about it yesterday. We got it all locked in. It will basically be a somewhat condensed version of what I've done in the past. Remember, we're going to have a cheat sheet at fantasyguru.com for DFS. We're going to have a DFS article. We're no longer going to do the cash game article and the GPP article. We're going to have one article that's a main article. We're going to have a cheat sheet, as we've always done. And then we're going to have raised plays. So it's kind of a cash game breakdown, but it's raised plays. I'm also going to include, for those of you that are into the wagering aspect of things, going to include a bet in that every day. That's the plan, at least. I will be doing bets. My podcast, Intro to MLB Betting, is up at fantasyguru.com. So if you have the wagering package with us, you go to the website, you go to the betting tab at the top, you go to MLB, and right there is a link, Intro to MLB Betting Podcast. So it's about a 45, 50-minute podcast where I talk about my plan for betting in 2025. So check that out. But yeah, I think we're going to have a bet a lot of times in the DFS article. So there you go. That's a nice little add-on. We'll obviously have the betting section separately as well. Check out that podcast. I think it was about 50 minutes. And there's a whole litany of not directives, however you want to say it, kind of the plan written down, and then me expanding upon it for 50 minutes talking. So for those of you that have that, again, the betting tab at the top, MLB in the drop-down menu, go over to Intro to MLB Betting Podcast, 50-minute podcast of me talking about what I plan to do, why I plan to do it, what are we looking to do, what aren't we looking to do. I think that's a really good tool, hopefully. I did it, so hopefully it's good. But hopefully that's a really good tool to allow people to understand my thought process and how I plan to proceed in that angle. So that'll get started today. Most days with the betting, I will be lighter, if not out, if I'm not doing the DFS write-up. Because again, when you're doing the DFS write-up and you're spending 5 hours doing that, you're much more tied in. And I know people are putting money on this, and I'm not a big betting guy in the sense that we need to have 10 bets every day. I'm not, if I'm not certain about what I'm talking about, I'm not going to put it out there for you. I don't want you to lose money because I'm only half-assing something. So some days there might be 5 bets, other days there might be 2 bets. It all depends. It's not from a lack of effort. It's because that's what is best that day. So hopefully you'll enjoy that. Click that subscribe tab at the top of the page over at fantasyguru.com. All right. Every Thursday, we talk football with this man, Tyler Buecher, and he had a good idea. We actually started, Jeff Mans is doing a little bit of this on his Elite Sports show, but we haven't done it on this show at all. And Tyler Buecher said, hey, Ray, there's the draft coming up in football, and, one of the things we should probably discuss is what are teams kind of looking to do at the draft? And I know all of you love this talk, so we're bringing in Tyler today to do just that. Tyler Beaker, fantasyguru.com. How you doing today, Tyler? Tyler, we can't hear you. Oh, can everyone hear Tyler, or is this me again? Gosh, this technology. If we can get a note there in the chat room, Tyler, go ahead and talk, and we'll see if anyone can hear you. All right, we'll see. Can you hear him, folks? I can't hear Tyler Beaker. Can you hear Tyler Beaker? Tyler Beaker, fantasyguru.com. I heard. Oh man.
There we go. I think I
There's
muted
Tyler. Tyler, we gotcha. That happened one day with Russell Clay. Everyone else could hear him, but I couldn't hear him. It was really weird. So I had to know. We didn't know. Okay, now
My bad.
Everyone can hear. We can hear you. You're back. How you doing, Tyler?
I'm doing good. Happy opening day. Excited for some baseball today. How about you?
Yeah, it's good because you know how this goes. You spend all the preseason talking about things, and then it finally happens, right? It's like for the last, since the end of October, I've been planning for today. So it's been a long time. So it's nice to get things going here. To get going.
Exhale a little bit.
Yeah, exhale a little bit. And you know how it is. You kind of it's like, all right, let's get some new data, right? You're kind of just analyzing the same stuff. So kind of nice to see that. We got a couple of notes here before we dive in. Tyler O'Neill, opening day home run streak. Will he extend it to 6 straight openers? I think that's a better question, Angelo, to ask Sandro Nello, because Sandro's the streak guy. Opening day home runs. There's a lot of cool things. Like there's so many teams, Tyler, and there's so many things going on. Like I personally hadn't even seen that he'd hit a home run 5 straight opening days. That's kind of impressive. Would you put any stock in something like that? Because it's kind of a random event, but it's kind of impressive at the same time.
I agree. Yeah, sure. If your typical unit's $100, maybe 5. I would not spend anything close to anything near a full unit on that, but that's just me playing a bit conservatively. I only played one prop today, and it's an under on a pitching strikeout prop, just because I don't envision many of these pitchers going super deep, and I think that's kind of the expectation. Am I far off with that assumption?
No, I think that's very fair. Yeah,
okay.
And we were talking earlier, like you don't know. Some of these guys are at 75 pitches. Some of them are at 90 pitches. You know, if they have a rough outing and in a rough inning and they throw 27 pitches, maybe they just pull them out. So yeah, I think that's very fair at this point in time to take an under on something like that. Christy, by the way, one more question before we get to football. Any news on George Kirby? It appears he will start the season on the injury list. He will start the season on the injury list. I haven't seen a definitive target for the return of Kirby. I have seen speculation that Kirby will be back on the hill in the month of April for the Mariners. So this is not at this point in time catastrophic. There's no surgery indicated with his shoulder. So, Chris, the expectation is he will be back by the end of April, but he will start the season on the injured list for the Mariners. All right, Tyler, let's talk per your suggestion about what these teams are trying to do. I personally am not a draft guy. You and the listeners know that. I'm doing all this baseball, so I just can't be. So we bring you on because you are a draft guy. You are somebody that does football year-round. And you said, hey, Ray, let's talk about some of the needs, because at this point in time, we're all debating who's going to go number 1 and 2 and 3 and all this kind of where is Genty going to get drafted, all that kind of stuff. Well, let's talk about some of the team needs. So let's start out in the AFC West. And the Chiefs, doesn't matter what they need because they win. So let's put that's point number 1. I think they could add a wide receiver. You know, they brought back Marquise Brown. Okay. I think a lot of the stuff that I saw with them is more about the offensive and defensive lines, the up front scenario. What do you see as the biggest need for the Chiefs?
Yeah, I believe offensive line and defensive line are the biggest needs. I concur with that. Just keeping Mahomes healthy and upright remains the biggest priority there. Left tackle was an issue all last year with it being a revolving door. Right tackle, Juwan Johnson, was a penalty machine with all those false starts and uncalled false starts. It's just a matter of time until the NFL is like, okay, dude, we're going to have to start calling.
So bad. He was always offsides, it looked like. Always.
Yeah. Like, I get trying to time the jump, but man, you just mistimed it by a full second almost every snap. They did add Jalen Moore. I thought that was an interesting addition, but I would not be shocked if they still address it once again by just spending some premium capital on it. They tried to go through Isaac. What's his name? There's a guard they grabbed. I'm sorry, Kingsley Suamata. He was a round 2 pick from last year that they tried to plug in at left tackle for a bit. Kind of seemed overwhelmed. I think he's now the favorite to fill in for the guard spot where Joe Tooney left via that trade. So You can add left guard as a need as well. Again, the priority should be keeping Mahomes upright. We know he likes to play around in the pocket, dance around. Buying him as much time as possible needs to be a priority given how much money they have invested in this guy. So left tackle, left guard, those would be like my two big needs for the squad. And the defensive tackle too. Like the defense allowed some of their veteran players to walk in free agency. Chris Jones isn't getting any younger. Charles Omenihu falls more into like the Jag territory of just a guy over like a difference maker. So I wouldn't be shocked if they spent some capital there. Their first pick number 31, second to last because of the playing in the Super Bowl. So they'll be drafting late in round 1. And you mentioned pass catcher. I would specify that as tight end, actually, thinking about what they try to do after the Kelsey. Yeah, looking for the future. They let Jody Fortson, who was a guy I thought was going to be the heir apparent for quite a bit. They let him walk. Peyton Hendershot, they brought in from Dallas. He was kind of like a rental. They let him walk again in free agency. They brought in 31-year-old Bob Tunyon. Like, come on, guys, this isn't the answer. So I think
Robert.
I like calling him Bob. I like calling him Bob. Robert Tunyon. I envision that also being a need, but probably not a round 1 need.
Let's talk about the Chargers. And this is an interesting one, Tyler, because you could look at this team and say, all right, the Chargers needed an edge rusher. They lost Bosa. You could say they needed running back, but they added Najee Harris. You could say they need a tight end, but they added Ty Conklin. You can always say they need a wide receiver because, again, Mike Williams is back, but can we count on them? So it seems like they're addressing some of the needs that they do have. Are they going to continue along these lines, or something that stands out with the Chargers for you?
Yeah, you mentioned filling their needs in free agency, and they're kind of well positioned entering the draft to kind of go best player available. And I wouldn't be shocked if they go in any number of directions. They're picked number 22 in the draft, so it's not like they'll be getting a blue chip guy, but there's still some pretty quality options for them there. The interior of the offensive line looked like a spot to me that stood out as a spot to upgrade. They've got a pair of the best bookend tackles in the game right now, but improving the interior would just be a significant help to Najee Harris and perhaps another running back. This is a really deep class here at the running back position. I'd be really shocked if they left day 2 without getting a running back, given all the depth there at the position in terms of the class. Kamani Vidal, like, we liked him, but I don't think he did enough to secure the RB2 role with certainty. Right. So getting a guy behind Najee, who, again, Najee is only on a 1-year, $5.25 million contract. It wasn't a massive signing by any means. They let all their guys go. Gus Edwards, J.K. Dobbins. So adding a guy in the class makes sense. The defensive line, you mentioned edge. Joey Bosa's departure to Buffalo certainly creates a big need there. Khalil Mack is 34 years old, and the penciled-in starter for Bosa, or the replacement, is Bud Dupree, PFF's number 115 graded edge rusher out of 119 last year. Not good. So, yeah. And Dupree, age 32. So, youth is certainly a need there. You can also add defensive tackle. They let Puna Ford go, who was PFF's number 3 highest graded interior run defender. Letting him go was a big mistake in my eyes because this was already a defense that really struggled against the run. 6th highest yards per carry allowed to opposing rushing attacks. They need a lane clogger. But I feel like that's been a revolving door where they've needed to fill that need for multiple seasons now. There's just so many different spots where they could upgrade. And then we could also include the cornerback position. They threw a lot of darts in the veteran angle, like Dante Jackson, Benjamin St-Juste. In my eyes, these are just guys. They're not quality starting caliber corners. Asante Samuel Jr. had that stinger issue that cost him, and he only played 4 games last year. Mm-hmm. He's still unsigned right now, which is kind of remarkable for a player of his age and his pedigree, but that's telling. The fact that he's still unsigned, and teams are probably very worried about that medical issue right now. So I think there's when we also factor in the losses that they've sustained at cornerback, like Christian Fulton, who went to the Chiefs, Eli Apple, who's a free agent. I think corner is also a big need for the Chargers against a division where we got the Chiefs, we've got the Raiders, we've got everyone. There's just going to be a lot of passing here. They're going to need a lot of defense here.
Tyler Beaker of FantasyGuru.com joins us every Thursday at about 12:30 Eastern Standard Time. Let's talk about the Broncos. Sean Payton, inarguably one of the best coaches in football. He's got a plan. He makes it work, and they win games. Right? We've seen it on and on. He wanted a tight end. He wanted a joker. He got him. He got his joker in Evan Ingram. So he got that piece that they needed. There's been continual talk about the backfield, right? Obviously, Javonte Williams is now with Dallas. Julio McLaughlin, Audric Estime. Everyone's kind of anticipating that the Broncos take another running back. Do you think that's an early choice, a late choice? At the wide receiver spot, they've got Courtland Sutton. They could use some help there. Seems like a lot of needs from some of the skill position players on offense, which is kind of surprising given how effective they were last year at putting up points at some periods of time.
Yeah, and that's honestly kudos to the GM. I think they've done a great job filling the holes in free agency this offseason. When I look at their team needs, it's literally just the skill position players on offense: running back, receiver, tight end. Javonte's out the door. We've heard reports that Sean Payton's not super high on the backfield tandem they've got right now.
Right.
Estime kind of really failed to meet the year one expectations that I had. And then Julio McLaughlin's more of a change of pace guy.
Mm-hmm.
Tough to see him getting the 250 plus carry mark ever in his career. So adding another guy would make sense here. They've got pick number 20. I believe in the latest mock by NFL.com's DJ that he'd had Omarion Hampton from North Carolina going here. So the number 2 overall running back going here would make a lot of sense. He's kind of a do-it-all back for them and would fill a position of need greatly. You mentioned receiver. Courtland Sutton's age 30, not getting any younger. I think they need to add in their big-bodied possession receiver because they have the field stretchers and guys like Mims, Franklin, but adding someone like that would also help. And then, man, I love the Evan Ingram signing because I feel like it really helps them in so many different facets where they can really just focus on RB and wide receiver. And maybe they get a depth piece behind Ingram, but it's really more of a secondary need.
Tyler Beaker, fantasyguru.com. One more team in the AFC West before we talk NFC West, and that's the Raiders. And it's like, oof. I mean, they've got Brock Bowers, which is fantastic. Geno Smith is going to be their quarterback, so they're going to have a really high completion percentage, but whoopee-doo. It's Jacoby Myers and a bunch of riffraff. The running is Raheem Mostert, their lead running back right now. I mean,
yeah,
they got needs. I mean, you talk offense, they got needs, and then on defensive side, there's needs too. So, where do you think the Raiders are going, or is the answer just pretty much everywhere?
Pretty much everywhere. There's no option that it would make you second guess things aside from tight end. Yeah, quarterback for sure. I think that's definitely at the top of the needs. New head coach hired. Pete Carroll really wants to create a winning culture. I think that starts at the quarterback position. We could also see them view that in a similar lens at the running back position with number 6 overall going Ashton Giante. This is a laughably weak running back room. And if they view Giante as franchise altering player, don't be surprised at all if they select him number 6 at all to try to change the identity of this offense. This is a top 3 overall player in the class, regardless of position. He's a really special running back in my eyes. And then we look at cornerback. They let Nate Hobbs walk, who's been a phenomenal slot corner for them for years. They brought in a lot of veterans, but no difference-making names. I think that's a big need. And then receiver, when they go 3 receiver sets, it's going to be Christian Wilkerson and Trey Tucker on the outside, flanking Jacoby Myers. It's just they're setting themselves up for failure by not addressing the wide out position. I would be shocked. So they've got pick 6, pick 37, pick 68. I wouldn't be shocked if one of those round 2, round 3 picks were a wide receiver here to help them because they need some help at wide out.
Tyler Beaker of FG. Let's shift things over to the NFC West. The Rams keep hoping to win 9 games and win the division. I think that's the plan yet again this season. Maybe 10 victories, win the division. They could use a tight end. I don't know if that's an early pick, but they could use a tight end at some point. They brought Matthew Stafford, and they've got Garoppolo behind him, but there's no future there, so maybe they take a late quarterback dart throw there too. They need a lot of help on defense. And then there's the wide receiver spot. And, talk about this early in the week with Armando Marsal, and since we're talking Rams, get your thought on it too. The Puka Nacua news about where you went on the podcast and said, I'm done at 30, and I got a family I want to build and things I want to do with my life. It totally makes sense. And Puka's dealt with injuries to this point in time. Does that make you a little nervous as a football coach, having one of your guys say, my exit plan's already been built? It kind of sounds, again, I get it. I'm not saying that retiring at 30 is the wrong thing to do. But does that make you a little bit nervous about Puka Nacua? Are you nervous because he has missed games on the field? They brought in Devontae Adams, which is a great addition, but he's not getting any younger. Do they have to draft a wide receiver? Talk us through the Rams.
Yeah, they've got an interesting setup here. I think it's been really tough for a team that hasn't had a round 1 draft pick in ages. They finally had one last year for the first time, dating all the way back to 2016, which was the Jared Goff selection. So they just haven't had round 1 picks. GM Les Snead is not afraid to move up and down the board. He's not afraid to deal premium picks. Yet we're at a position where the Rams, if you look at their roster, they're not in a terrible spot on paper. They're a little older, sure, but they're also, in my eyes, set up for a postseason run in a division that's very beatable. We will talk about some of the holes in some of the other teams here, but this squad, in my eyes, isn't too far off from being a contender in terms of a deep postseason run. When I look at like the passing attack, sure, there's some shortcomings where we need some youth injected there. The offense has flowed through Kupp and Nacua these last few years. Finding Kupp's replacement a big need. The Nacua angle I'm less concerned about. Maybe it's more of a dynasty concern, but he's still young. He's still got plenty of meat on the bone. And again, he's allowed to change his opinion of things. I think we heard the same concerns about Tyreek Hill wanting to retire at 30 as well, not too long ago.
He's got 18 kids and he wants to be a porn star, so he's got a definite plan.
Yeah, who knows what's going on there. So I'll say Nacua has the right to change his mind, and it's 30 years old is still far away. That said, we also don't always have that clarity of when some of these star players abruptly retire. Examples like Andrew Luck, Patrick Willis. There's plenty of examples out there. Yeah, plenty of examples out there. But I think receiver is definitely a position of need. They cannot expect Devontae Adams and Tutu Atwell to carry the rock behind Nacua for very much longer. Tyler Higbee, age 32, is on the final year of his contract. We've seen McVay prioritize athletic tight ends and move weapons in his offensive system for years. It's not going to happen, but I would love to see Tyler Warren on this offense. I think he'd be a really fun chess piece here. Cornerback, super needy position as well. They ranked 28th in EPA per dropback allowed last year. They gave the 5th most receiving yards to outside wide receivers. Both Darius Williams and Ahkello Witherspoon are slotted in to start right now. They're both on the wrong side of 30. And the Rams, they've just been routinely mocked in mock drafts that I've read to take a cornerback here at 26 with their first overall pick. I'll add quarterback too. You mentioned it, Stafford and Garoppolo. Stafford's 37, Garoppolo's 34. They need a QB for the future.
Tyler Beaker of FG. Seattle. We're excited about the plan last year on offense, and they're going to open things up and all that kind of stuff. Didn't work. They're kind of changing course. They traded DK Metcalf, obviously, to the Steelers. They signed Cooper Kupp. I know that JSN took that step as you expected last year. You're a big fan of JSN. He took that step, Jackson Smith and Jigba. But Cooper Kupp is not getting any younger, and who knows if he's even going to be playing 3 years from now. Marquez Valdes-Scantling, next man up. They have a need at wide receiver. They need a big body guy at wide receiver. Now, whether that's early in the draft or late, they need a big body guy there. They need offensive line help because clearly the way this team is structured, this team is looking to go 50-50 run pass, right? They're not looking to throw the ball 40 times a game. So getting some help on the offensive line is a big need. Those two are the things you see, and anything else that you see with Seattle.
Yeah, pass catcher is definitely a big need here. Kupp and MVS, the two big offseason acquisitions, they're both on the wrong side of 30 as well. Kupp a little bit redundant, and we mentioned it multiple times here on the show, where why would the Rams be willing to part ways with such a big fixture of their organization for years? The medicals have got to be worse than they're letting on. That's my fear, and I will probably be avoiding Kupp in all fantasy formats moving forward. MVS, we know what we got there. Like, come on, guys, what are we doing? So yeah, I think an early pick would make sense at wide receiver. You could also do the same for tight end. Noah Fant in the final year of his contract. Is AJ Barner the future? We saw him pull off 1 or 2 catches a game last year. It looked good. I don't know if he's the future though. And when I look at how Sam Darnold as a quarterback likes to throw over the back half of 2024, when TJ Hawkinson returned to the lineup, they targeted the tight end position at a top 12 rate, 26.1%. So maybe that's something that we see them invest in and try to give Darnold another weapon there. I saw, who was it? Colston Loveland mocked here by somebody recently. I thought that was a good fit. The interior offensive line, that's also a big need. 50 sacks allowed. They gave up a ton of pressure, largely due to issues up the middle. And I really don't want to say it's on Geno Smith. He had a really quick time to throw. It's more of system scheme, offensive line. Just getting blue chip talent up there would make a lot of sense. And the perimeter cornerback edge, these are two other big needs on the defensive side. Cornerbacks Tariq Woolen and Josh Jobe are both in the final year of contracts. So they're the guys slated to start on the outside, with Devin Witherspoon, the star guy in the slot. Jobe was PFF's number 107 graded cornerback. He could easily be replaced. And then edge, we've seen back-to-back off seasons now where they've added big names on expensive contracts. This year it was DeMarcus Lawrence. Last year it was Uche Nwosu. Adding a third piece to develop behind them, I think, would be a wise choice instead of continuously trying to throw big money at a position of need. Try to develop somebody on your own, which they're trying. I just feel like they haven't really gotten there yet. So those are the big needs I've found for this team, but they're not far off. They've got some pieces. I like what the GM has been doing, John Schneider. There's reason to be optimistic about Seattle, but I don't think this is the year to be all in for a championship.
Excited and optimistic with the Arizona Cardinals. They seem to always just, they've got the quarterback in Kyler Murray. They've got the running backs in Connor and Benson. They were supposed to have their guy in Marvin Harrison, though they decided not to throw him the football last year, which is, they need help at wide receiver. Greg Dortch can't be running a lot, 70% of your snaps if you're a championship level team. Can't happen, right? It's just not. They've got Michael Wilson, who's that big body guy, but he gets 3 targets a week. Like, the passing attack to me at the wide receiver spot, obviously I have McBride. At the wide receiver spot, though they took Harrison last year, still a need, in my opinion. They have a need on the offensive line, and they got all kinds of things they got to do on defense. So where do you think the Cardinals go with their game plan this year?
Yeah, I think receiver is a big need here too. I'm with you there, where like we look at Michael Wilson, who round 3 pick really just hasn't taken that step forward. He has a career 1.22 yards per route run. To me, that just doesn't cut it. I don't know. I think a replacement for the future would be a really wise investment. When we look at the depth of this squad in terms of players on contracts beyond 2025, they've only got 3 wide receivers. So they're going to need to overhaul this room, essentially. Getting a guy for the future would make a lot of sense. Cornerback also makes a lot of sense. I feel like that's been a revolving door for the Cardinals for years. Last year, they gave up the second highest catch rate to receivers on the perimeter. Sean Murphy-Bunting was brought in from Tennessee, didn't really do much. Starling Thomas, they're not the answer. They need a blue chip guy there, and they've got pick number 16 to grab a good guy in this draft. I like what they did in terms of addressing the defensive line in free agency. They added Josh Sweat from the Eagles, Dalvin Tomlinson, Browns guy, Vikings time as well. They added outside linebacker, or they re-signed outside linebacker Baron Browning. Those were good moves in my eyes. I think they did some things where they mitigated all the losses along the defensive line. They let go of like 3 or 4 defensive tackles. So bringing in some new help there on the front makes a lot of sense. And then the interior of the offensive line, Will Hernandez, Tristan Colin are now unsigned free agents. Beachum is a 35-year-old tackle that was retained on a 1-year deal. This was a unit that surprised me when I look back at their stats. They were top 10 in both run blocking, pass blocking. They just need to add like a blue chip guard in my eyes as like the final piece of the puzzle to this offensive line. But I was pretty impressed with the offensive line's performance when I went back. I initially envisioned that being one of their bigger needs, but after going through the process, I think it's more of a secondary one.
Speaking of offensive line, the last team we talk about is the Niners. They need help on the offensive line. It's not what it once was. Trent Williams is, really close to retirement. They could use a running back. Everyone knows they're going to draft somebody, pick a free agent up, something like that. They'll get more depth behind McCaffrey and Garendo. But I got to tell you, Tyler, like as a San Francisco guy, born and raised, every 6 minutes when free agency started, the Niners lost someone on defense. Every 6 minutes. Boom, 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 boom. I don't even know who they have on defense left. Like it's Joey Bosa. I mean, it's Nick Bosa and Fred Warner, and then who the hell knows?
Yep.
Is this a draft where they just got to pile on defensive pick because they lost frontline guys, they lost linebackers, they lost defensive backs, they lost everybody from the defensive side of the football.
All 3 levels.
Yeah.
It's a complete disaster. They really need to hit the reset button. They have the most picks tied with Baltimore in this year's draft class. So that's at least a good thing to try to restock the cupboard. But my goodness, the defensive linemen, the linebackers, the corners, the safeties, just a mass exodus of players and talent for a team that a year ago, rewind the clock, 365 days, we were envisioning this team making a deep postseason run. Now we look at it, this offense is going to have to carry this unit quite a bit, which heck makes me pretty bullish on some Brock Purdy fantasy stock. But yeah, I mean, you can literally write defensive tackle, you can write edge, you can write linebacker and cornerback and safety, and all of these needs would be all of these positions are a huge team need and something that you shouldn't be shocked if they select premium capital. Offensive line's the other big need, and you mentioned it there with Trent Williams not getting any younger, age 37. They let one of their best linemen, and Aaron Banks, go to Green Bay. Mm-hmm. His replacement is Nick.
What are they doing? Like, what are they doing, really? I mean, Christian McCaffrey's not going to make it through the year. It's like they're going to start having to pay Brock Purdy $45 million a year. Like, this organization, George Kittle's not young. Yeah. Who the hell knows with Brandon Ayuk coming back from knee injury? Like, it got bad overnight, Tyler. It got really bad overnight.
Yeah, Ayuk's injury also, like week 7. We have to keep in mind that's usually like an 11, 12-month recovery. Like, best case scenario, he's coming back mid-season.
Yeah.
Worst case, he may miss out the entirety of this campaign.
Yeah.
Heck, they brought back Kyle Juszczyk, though.
Oh, that's true. They did. Yes, they did bring one guy back. That's true.
Yeah, I mean, I look at the additions they made. Mac Jones, who cares? Demarcus Robinson, who cares? Tight end Luke Farrell, who cares?
Yeah.
They added the safety Richie Grant. That was a good play, but he's older. Yeah, it's just a disaster. Like, I love taking franchises in the Madden video game and rebuilding them. This seems like a perfect opportunity.
Is this a kind of like, if we're being positive from a fantasy perspective, right? Is this kind of like the Bengals situation where both these teams' defenses are like, what the hell's going on? You said it earlier with the Niners. The Niners are going to have 400 yards offense and 30 points. Like, they're going to have to push the ball. So this is a good thing for the passing attack, I assume?
I would like to think that. Usually whenever we get into these situations, we need an offensive line that's competent of holding up against a defense that does not have to respect the run. And if they're trailing in games often, like, they're going to be one-sided. We're going to see how defenses like to quote up the NASCAR packages of 4 defensive ends on the field. And yeah, when you're one-dimensional, it's really tough to sustain drives when teams know you're going pass. That said, hopefully we get some good plays here. I mean, there's a lot of good talent at the pass-catching positions here for San Francisco, but we need the offensive line to hold up, and that's a big question mark entering the season.
Tyler Beaker of FantasyGuru.com. He joins us here every Thursday at about 12:30 Eastern Standard Time. We talk football. He'll be back next week. We'll continue this review, going through all the teams here before the draft gets going. I know, Tyler, you and the crew are getting ready now, or actually have started the process of reviewing the youngsters. So how is that going, looking at the draft prospects in article form over at FG?
Great so far. We've been posting our rookie profiles over there beginning a few weeks back. Been covering a lot of wide receivers on my end, so it's been very, very interesting. I'll be honest, I thought I'd be more pumped about this year's class, and I find myself more lukewarm than anything. Doesn't mean there aren't bad prospects, but I don't think there are going to be heavy hitters in the form of like a Jamar Chase kind of level. I don't think we're going to see those types of difference makers in terms of totally shaking up the dynasty landscape. Even some of the top end prospects in this year's class have some warts where others you can make bulletproof cases for. I don't really see it this year. So that's kind of where I am. I hate to be a little pessimistic to end the show, but that's where I am right now.
No, you got to be honest. Go to fantasyguru.com. You go to the top seasonal articles, the rookie profiles. You can find them all there. Tyler's doing them. Russell's doing them. I know that Armando Marsal's involved, so the whole crew's cranking them out. We got about, a good 5 or 6 posted right now already, and those are going to continue to roll out here. What else are you working on? Are you in the lab right now? You breaking things down, or are you waiting a little bit longer until that draft actually occurs to kind of do that and look more directly at 2025?
No, I'm still looking at every single position, going through the quarterbacks right now in my spare time. But yeah, mostly doing these rookie profile write-ups, prepping for these types of video shows where writing down all kinds of like draft picks, coaching changes, general manager trends, key free agent additions and losses, team needs, and any other team notes I have. We're getting ready for a video show where we'll be doing the first round of the NFL draft opening night on Thursday. So I'm trying to get a bunch of notes ready for that as well. But yeah, mostly just looking at the season and recapping it, seeing what teams are expected to do for the NFL draft, and getting ready for this upcoming big event. It's one of the big flagpole events of the offseason for the NFL, and very, very excited.
And you're also over in Discord in the baseball room poking around. I saw you there this morning. You even got a question asked your way.
Yeah.
And you deferred. You said, I'm not going to
I deferred.
Wagering question.
Yeah.
But yeah, you can find Tyler in Discord all the time. He will respond to your baseball questions, but I think he feels a little more comfortable with football. Is that fair?
I will not answer your baseball questions. I was just informing somebody where something was posted in Discord, giving directions. Let me end on a positive note. I will say I am very excited for our UFL product, which launches Friday, tomorrow. We've got the first game there. There are already props up over on FanDuel, so shout out to them for posting props. Haven't always seen that available this early before games, so excited about that. Hopefully that's a signal for things to come all season long. Check out our content over there because I'm eager to win some tournaments with our squad. I think we've got some really great minds over there, led by DFS Marlin and Jorge Pucks. We've got some quality UFL writers. Excited for this upcoming season, which starts tomorrow.
Because we care about you, the listener and the follower and the viewer, guess who we're having on the show tomorrow morning? DFS Marlin. Mark Hogan is coming on the show tomorrow, so he will talk about the UFL product. We'll have him on at about 12:10. So tomorrow's show is going to be really quick baseball intro. But because UFL season is there and it's starting, we're breaking into our traditional programming. So we'll have about 10 minutes of baseball. Mark Hogan will join us at about 12:10 Eastern Standard Time. We'll talk to him about 20-25 minutes about the UFL. Then we'll have on our traditional Friday guest, Russell Clay, and we'll talk to him about football. So unfortunately, Tyler, tomorrow is a lot about football. But
can't wait.
Again, I know you can. We have a great product, as you said. UFL wanted to highlight it and let people know that we're covering it too, because I know a lot of places don't. So stay tuned for that little intro tomorrow to that product. And again, we'll talk to Russell as we always do on Fridays as well. Thanks for your time today, Tyler. Appreciate it. We'll do it again in a week. What divisions are we hitting next week? Have you thought that far ahead, or is that on me?
Let's do it clockwise. We did the West, so we'll go north next.
Okay, all right, that'll work. Tyler and I are very structured with our thought process, so that makes sense to me. So that's what we'll do with Tyler next week. Thanks for your time today, Tyler. Have a great couple days till the weekend, and we'll talk to you next week.
All right, sounds good. Thanks for having me, Ray.
You got it. He's Tyler Beaker. I'm Ray Flowers. Head over to fantasyguru.com. Click that subscribe tab in the top right corner. Send a note to support@fantasyguru.com. Support@fantasyguru.com. Baseball, football, basketball, hockey, NASCAR, PGA, MMA, horse racing. All of it's available over at FG. Click that subscribe tab in the top right corner of the page. For Tyler, I am Ray. We'll see you at 12 o'clock Eastern tomorrow on Fantasy Sports Daily, powered by fantasyguru.com.